Sir, ma'am, this video briefs a productive course of action in your troop training piece. The use of Camp GRUBER training site for your next operational event. The state-operated training site Camp GRUBER is one of 11 Category A facilities in the U.S. with more than 33,000 acres, sized by the National Guard Bureau to train more than 3,000 troops. A former World War II training camp for 3 U.S. divisions, personally inspected by President Roosevelt. Camp GRUBER was closed and dismantled after the war, reopening as a National Guard and Reserve training site in 1977. And now serves Guard, Reserve, active component units in a joint force configuration that provides civilian training access for law enforcement elements, Homeland Security, Civil Air Patrol, ROTC, and mentoring youth camp organizations. Diverse training areas feature low-lying swamps and lake shores along Greenleaf Lake, open prairie, steep hills, and an adequate road network for theater of operations training. Similar to Western Europe, the terrain provides maneuver areas for infantry, engineer, medical, transportation, and aviation units. Both river and lake waterborne training is available. The Raven unmanned aerial vehicle is trained here with approval expected for shadow UAVs. Located 14 miles southeast of the Arkansas River port of Muskogee, Oklahoma, and with rail access to the camp's front gate, your rolling stock has 2 additional means of arrival, should you elect to bypass the highway option.
You may begin firing when your car gets up here!
Ranges, sir, ma'am, are state-of-the-art, well-maintained and recently upgraded with more authorized and future plans, including the reopening of World War II-era artillery fire live points. 40-plus ranges and training aids are available to you, as noted in detail in your briefing handouts, provided in addition to our in-depth website to complete your staff study of plausible COAs. Key stations include the Counter-Improvised Explosive Device Training Lane, constructed with guidance of the Pre-Mobilization Training Assistant Element, PTAW, and Asymmetric Warfare Group. Professionals, both currently stationed on site.
So you can come up here and see these types of wires.
So the primary purpose of me being here is to increase survivability. I'm very passionate about teaching counter IED because I want to ensure that soldiers are able to go to combat theater of operations and come home alive to take care of themselves and their families.
Hey, Alpha 1, move around the north side.
Engineers have a heavy demolition range with 2 shelters. 250 pounds of non-fragmenting material are authorized per surface shot, with 325 pounds per subsurface explosion.
We call it the obstacle course, the O course out here.
Let's go, quickly.
It's pretty awesome. We went out there a couple days.
There you go. I hope that hurt.
It's real good. Everything's, I mean, it's awesome for the physical part of it and everything, the physical aspect, pushing our Marines as far as we can, as hard as we can.
The land navigation course has 14 start points and 8 waypoints. The EIB range comes with 12 start and 8 waypoints. A Humvee Egress Assistance Trainer, HEAT, provides soldiers with training necessary to survive a partial or complete Humvee rollover. 3 are available. Combatives can be facilitated inside or on a new outdoor rubber field.
Drive them over.
A state-of-the-art virtual convoy operations trainer provides combat convoy realistic training conditions. crew members having a complete continuous 360-degree view of the entire virtual battlefield around them. The engagement skills trainer provides 3 modes of gun training: marksmanship, squad, fire team, collective, and judgmental use of force, shoot, don't shoot, using 9 different small arms weapon systems. Homeland Security and weapons of mass destruction specialists have over 40 sites to train on, to include collapsed structures, confined spaces, and vertical rescues.
We have 43 CBRNE venues for Homeland Security type training, along with Camp Gruber, which has 66,000 acres for military type training. So there's really no other place in the United States that has that type of ability to be able to provide that much training in a one-stop shop mentality.
Your air assets, in addition to normal field operations, have 2 specialty landing zones they can train on: a cliff overseeing the Arkansas River and a brownout LZ that goes to 0 visibility. A brigade-level medical clinic with facilities for hearing, eye, x-ray, EKG, panographic, and dental examinations is at your service, with a troop medical clinic and examination tables for battalion use. A lighted heliport is adjacent. There are 2 self-service laundries, a post-exchange, softball, basketball, and volleyball courts, golf driving range, a 2-mile running track, new gym facilities, wireless internet for the cantonment area. The adjoining Greenleaf State Park offers cabins, campgrounds, family and organizational recreational facilities, and nature hiking trails, boating and fishing. A new chapel, able to facilitate more than 200 troops, has just been added to the camp, built completely from volunteer funding.
The 3 things that the military looks at is the physical, the mental, and the spiritual. You prepare an individual for battle, you prepare them all 3 of those things.
The Camp Gruber training site is presented to you as the course of action to choose for your next training venue. Soldiers and State of Oklahoma employees invite all military and civilian professionals to train alongside them as they live their motto: warriors serving warriors. Your question, sir, ma'am.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see.
Since 1947, no chapel has existed at Camp Gruber. Now, reflecting the design of World War II era facilities, but with the efficiencies, comfort, and amenities of 2012, one has arisen.
So, and $2.2 million, just a little over $2.2 million, if it would have been bid out. So we raised right at $1 million in cash, and the rest was volunteer labor, donated and discounted materials, and services discounted. And so there's not a federal or state dollar in here, nowhere.
By the authority invested in me by the state of Oklahoma and as a minister of the gospel, I now pronounce you husband and wife.
A chapel presence was renewed with a renewal of wedding vows by Lieutenant Colonel Billy and Carla Robinson after 30 years of marriage. Only 4 days earlier, it was still a vacant shell with furnishings and electrical systems still being constructed.
The general was, I believe, he said he was actually out here thinking about how bad they needed a chapel, and he got a call the next day from Governor Fallon, and she said, let's get a chapel built. And but with the governor and General Deering both working on it, it took legs and just took off.
I mean, we had, when they put the walls out here, we had 150 people nailing up walls, and did it from the first wall was put up on the 28th of November. By the 28th of October. By the 6th of November, it was in the dry. So they could work all on the inside.
In its heyday of the 1940s war years, Camp Gruber had 14 chapels on its sprawling training facilities. In 1943, now retired Army First Sergeant Paul Pickens anointed a new base chapel with a pageantry of his own wedding as a fresh-faced sergeant and his new bride.
I had a great surprise, though, but I come to find out after it's all over with it, since this was the very first wedding of the division, this bride showed up to get their name in the book attending this wedding. You know?
Fittingly, 70 years later, another new Camp Gruber chapel was anointed with the pageantry of a marriage, now 30 years running, by the fresh faces of Colonel Robinson and his bride.
So many of them go through so many hard times with broken families, broken, just personal issues, and they need a place that they can go to speak with someone as a counselor.
And also a place to worship God. And that's an important part of the training of our military and who we are as the United States of America.
A chapel on a military installation is a critical place. We, as soldiers, we base our actions off our faith. It becomes especially important in combat. The infantry brigade just came from Afghanistan, where we had soldiers in combat, we lost soldiers, we had soldiers wounded. Your spiritual faith is very important, and a soldier needs a place that the chapel affords to express that faith.
Soldiers risk their mortal lives in the defense of God and country. Whether in the joys of weddings and family, the stress of crisis counseling, or the tears of final rites, the chaplaincy and their chapel facilities, as initiated by the first Commander-in-Chief George Washington, will always be at the core of the United States Armed Forces, as is the new chapel now at the core of Camp Gruber.
'Twas grace that brought my heart to fear, and grace my fears relieved. How precious did that grace appear the hour I first believed.
For the Oklahoma National Guard, I'm Army Master Sergeant Vincent Donaldson.
Welcome to Camp Gruber Range Control. This briefing is designed to impress upon you important operational and safety considerations pertaining to Camp Gruber range operations.
Ceasefire.
Camp Gruber Regulations 385-1 is your reference document for range operations. As a range OIC or safety officer, you are required to be aware of all procedures listed in this regulation concerning the operation of your facility. Camp Gruber policy states that a commander's certification letter referenced in Camp Gruber Regulation 385-1 must be on file at range control prior to the issuance of the range.
Left load 1 3-round magazine.
According to Camp Gruber Regulation 385-1, DAPAM 385-63, Staff Sergeant E6 or above may be appointed to perform duties as an officer in charge of small arms ranges. Sergeant First Class E7 or above for all other ranges. Only certified personnel listed on this memorandum may draw or operate range facilities on Camp Gruber. Persons in charge of or using range maneuver areas as training facilities are responsible for compliance with safety requirements of AR 385-63,
Scan your lanes.
DAPAM 385-63, and Camp Gruber Regulation 385-1 and applicable TMs and FMs. Failure to follow prescribed procedures can result in decertification.
The OIC will also be responsible for the opening sheet, which will be completed prior to the range going hot. The OIC and RSO will have on hand and be familiar with current FMs and TMs and related safety messages for the weapon or the weapon systems being fired. The range OIC and RSO will be personally present on the range at all times. As the OIC, you must ensure all personnel working your range are properly marked with the appropriate markings provided by range control.
Stand at ease.
It is the responsibility of the OIC to provide all personnel occupying the range with a weapon handling, hearing conservation, and unexploded ordnance orientation safety briefing prior to conducting any training on that range or maneuver area. Sample briefings are in the range book and applicable FMs and TMs for the specific weapon.
Dismiss.
Information on unexploded ordnance will be reported to range control, including coordinates of the UXO, type, caliber, and number of rounds. UXO will be dealt with only by qualified explosive ordnance disposal, EOD personnel.
It's range control. This Sergeant Haddix, go ahead.
The officer in charge is responsible for establishing and maintaining two types of communication. Two radio frequencies are used by range control, 40.80 primary and 31.30 as the alternate.
Roger that. Patients are ready for pickup.
40.80 is also used for medical evacuation, and when a medevac is in progress, no other traffic will be allowed on that frequency. Units will cease fire immediately and contact range control by other means if primary communication loss occurs. Once your range has been put into a hot status, hourly radio checks are required. Once range control has your certification memo with opening and closing sheet, you may sign for your range. You will find a PA system and range supplies in the tower on your range.
Stand behind the firing line.
On ranges without towers, supplies and PA systems will be issued to you by range control. Only the primary OIC may sign for range equipment.
As range OIC and safety officer, you are responsible to ensure specified road barricades are closed and warning signs are visible. Specific gate requirements are listed in Camp Gruber Regulations 385-1.
Move inline, downrange.
At no time will personnel be sent downrange or through posted impact area barrier gates without first requesting permission from range control. This includes range prep for night fire. Failure to obtain movement clearance from range control will result in decertification of the responsible range OIC and safety officers. Any damage to barrier gates will also result in decertification of the responsible range OIC and safety officer.
Ceasefire will be called for the following incidents: weapon or ammo malfunction on the range, fire on or near the range, or any time notified by range control. All units using Camp Gruber ranges or training areas will use existing roads or trails to the maximum extent possible. While on the range, vehicles will remain on the gravel surfaces at all times. Tactical vehicles will be parked in an organized manner in the available parking lot. No POVs are permitted on the range or parked along any road adjacent to the live fire training area. Active ranges must be identified with a range flag during the daytime, and a flag must be on Range Loop Road or a red light during the hours of darkness. Range control must be notified prior to units occupying the range. Once preparations for live fire operations have been completed, the OIC must call range control to have the range put into a hot status.
Range is hot.
Units utilizing the firing ranges must be alert for any aircraft entering your range area while in a hot status. If an aircraft should enter your range area, immediately come to a ceasefire and notify range control. Promptly notify range control of any fires in the vicinity of your range, giving the location by grid coordinates and describe any immediate danger. Range control will then give you instructions for a ceasefire until the fire has been put out.
In the event of an accident resulting in the injury of personnel, emergency first aid will be provided immediately by the unit medic on the range. Each range will contain a dedicated medic, litter-bearing vehicle with litter and dedicated driver. You will notify range control of any injuries immediately, no matter how slight. Evacuation of injured personnel, if necessary, will be accomplished by contacting range control on 40.80. When requesting medevac, give unit, number of injured personnel, and grid locations. Specific instructions for requesting medevac are in your range book. Read them and know them. If necessary, range control will guide you through the entire procedure. If any rounds impact in your area, immediately notify range control of any personnel injuries, number of rounds detonated, and the location. Ammunition stored on the ranges overnight will be safeguarded. In accordance with prescribed regulations, ammunition guards must maintain continuous communications with range control.
For units utilizing demolition ranges, heavy or light, the OIC and safety officers shall be present at the firing of each blast. Your anticipated blast schedule will be in the target folder, along with the risk management worksheet. IAW FM 5-19, FM 5-34, and FM 3-3424 will be submitted to range control for approval. The schedule and worksheet must be submitted prior to the issuance of the range. Range control may limit the area cover, timing, and sequence of blasting, as listed in the blasting schedule to ensure safety. All blasting will be conducted between sunrise and sunset. Blasting demolitions will not be conducted on Camp Gruber when the estimated cloud cover is 80% and the cloud ceiling is less than 2,000 feet. The OIC and safety officer need to ensure that a minimum safe distance is used for each amount of explosive used on each blast.
You may begin firing when your car gets up here.
The pop target devices located on several ranges are sensitive mechanisms and must be replaced, adjusted, or repaired only by properly trained personnel. Range control will be notified of any malfunction on any target. On occupation of your range, visually inspect the facility for any damages or inoperable facilities. Any damages to range facility, tower, latrine, roads, or a target mechanism or its component parts will require a damage statement to be filled out by the OIC.
When you have completed your firing operation, notify range control and request a permanent ceasefire or cold status. Safety officers must personally clear all weapons and conduct a shakedown inspection for ammunition and brass before the unit departs the range. You should then give notice you are preparing the range for clearance, and all personnel should be dispatched from the range area to expedite clearing operations. Once you have been cleared from your range, promptly return the range book and equipment to range control.
Ready to check in?
Remember, safety must be stressed above all, and personnel must be advised on the procedures for detecting and handling dud or misfired ammunition. Hearing conservation must be practiced at all times. Personnel should be cautious of seasonal hazards such as cold or heat injuries, snakes, and insects. It is our objective that all units training on Camp Gruber ranges experience realistic, safe, and beneficial training. If after completing this brief, you have further questions or something is still unclear, please ask range operations. If you have any recommendations that will enhance range operations and make training more realistic, please let us know at the end of your tour on the range. Thank you.